Welcome to Module 3, Radio Presentation Techniques. Here we're going to be talking about defining presentation, types of presenters, qualities of good radio presenter, and radio presentation techniques. So we start with the first unit, definition of presentation. Presentation tends to introduce the station's audience to the programs that are to follow. Presentation should be done in such a way that it attracts the audience to the station. Presentation is a careful way of sending messages to a lot of people via radio, TV, or other platforms. Presentation acts as an appetizer to the main dish. Broadcast stations that have competent announcers are bound to attract audiences to their programs. Presentation is the first contact with the audience, either by face or by voice. If the quality of presentation is appreciable or remarkable, it will tend to invite the audience, who will not only be inquisitive, but would want to watch or listen to more of the station's program. A lot of effort should be put into the job by the presenter, and I believe that's why you are taking this training, and that is why this training would be very useful for you. A lot of effort should be put into the job by the presenter so that the audience would not tune in or out. In order to capture and retain the audience, the presenter should adhere strictly to the house style of the broadcast station. This includes the presentation language for programs, the dress code, costume, makeup, as well as the ability to use or manipulate new technological gadgets such as the teleprompter, the broadcast software, the mixer in place of analog equipment. The presenter has to be respectful and cheerful to the audience. He has to be tactful, diplomatic, or firm in his or her style of presentation. The station's presenters who work within some or all of these guidelines are bound to be free from turning away audience members. So presentation requires the careful manner in which you transmit, bring out your words, messages to the audience via radio, TV, and other internet platforms. Let's talk about types of presenters. We have newscasters. Newscasters are newsreaders. They are also presenters, but this is a specialized area. Not all presenters are newscasters. Some presenters are not good at newscasting. They don't even have the knowledge. But then some have been able to learn how to read news either by training or by watching or by observation. But newscasting is a specialization on its own. However, most presenters are required to know how to read news. They present news as a broadcast program. They use appropriate language and performance cues to ensure exciting presentations to the news audience. They don't deviate from any given script produced as news. Since they are performers as well, they are bound to conform to the directives given by the floor manager, who in turn acts on the directives of the technical directors. Floor managers tend to be efficient using prompting devices in the studios, and this is useful newscasters. While on air, the newscaster should appear confident, and the words should be pronounced distinctly and appropriately. The word, sentence, or phrase stress should be placed in the right position so as to avoid confusing meanings. A newscaster who is not confident in his or her job is bound to deliver the news in a hasty manner and then make series of mistakes, thereby virtually asking the audience members to tune off. The job of a newscaster is to ensure the news information is delivered appropriately, right? Especially with some level of seriousness and formality. News is sacred. News is not just any program. News is not like any other program. News is special. News has the capacity to unite or destroy a nation. So news has to be taken very seriously. So if you're a newscaster, there are ways to present news. Of course, if you like to take a course on newscasting, you can get across to me. and we'll work on that. We also have presenters who are DJs. They call them disc jockey. Their major responsibility in a broadcast station is the presentation of musical programs of various classes and forms, past and present. Their major work is to entertain the station's audience by playing musical discs at the station. Their wit, which adds glamour and fun to the presentation, is their greatest asset in doing the work of presentation of artists and their works in particular. The disc jockey usually has vast knowledge about artists and their music, and this is one of the reasons they normally have some reasonable comments on the music presented to the audience. The disc jockey's main concern is to entertain the station's audience by giving them various types of music. At times they play the role of advisors to the society in the course of presenting their music and the artist. They know a lot of musicians, they know stories about them, they find stories about them, they research more about them and deliver it to the audience, especially as it aligns with the need of the audience, with what the audience is looking for. We also have anchors. Anchormen persons are charged. The anchormen or persons are charged with the responsibility of presenting programs such as discussions, interviews, and talk shows. They may also be called moderators. They are well acquainted with each program objective and they do a lot to motivate participation by the public. They are always knowledgeable in the subjects they handle. They are quick-witted and are always quick in reasoning. This helps them share knowledge with the participant during program presentation. For example, a discussion program on cultism in schools will definitely need someone who will guide the discussants in order to achieve the desired objective. It is the duty of the anchorman to introduce various segments of the programs and would ask discussant if they are, let us say, 3 or 4 to speak accordingly. For the 3 or 4 discussants would not be speaking all at the same time. From time to time, as discussion is in progress, the anchor may introduce or remind the audience about the topic. So basically, the anchorman is there to coordinate presentations from the speakers, from the discussants, from guests. The anchorman is there to interview. Sometimes the anchorman interviews guests on the show, ask questions, and try to ask follow-up questions just to ensure that the objective of the program is achieved. Let's talk about narrators. Who are narrators? Narrators are also presenters. They give an account of a series of events in a sequential and orderly manner. They provide information which explains situations in a graphic and interesting manner. The presenter, who usually gives the narration in documentary program, does carry the audience along and takes them through the program by narrating the story in a persuasive and compelling manner. I'm sure you may have listened to some documentaries. You can see how the presentation is done. It is not done in a hurry. It is not done in a hasty manner. It is done properly for you to understand and pick almost every word just to understand the purpose of that story. Let's move on to the narrative given by short storytellers is done in such a way that one may think that the narrator was at the scene of the incident or event. Such narrators often reenact and color the story so much that it sounds real. Note that the narrator is there to present the event in a way that it would look real. Alright, let's look at qualities of a good radio presenter. 1. Excellent communication skills. A good radio presenter should have exceptional communication skills to be able to articulate thoughts and ideas clearly and effectively on air. That's very important. In fact, it's the number one skill you must have as a good radio presenter. Pleasant voice. A pleasing and expressing voice is critical for radio presenters. A voice that is pleasant to listen to can keep your listeners engaged and captivated. Of course, a lot of presenters are able to keep their listeners or viewers as a result of the beauty of their voice. A good radio presenter should have knowledge about the topics they discuss on air and be able to provide relevant information to listeners. And that is where preparation comes in. If you're a presenter and you're asked to anchor a show, it's important for you to get your details right. You must gather sufficient information about what you want to discuss on air. Presenters must be adaptable to different situations and be flexible in their approach. Take, for instance, things can change in the course of presenting a show. Before you know what is happening, maybe your script, you couldn't find it, and something happened, or there's a breaking news, and the situation changed. Then you may have to adapt to the situation. A good listener, a good radio presenter should be an active listener and be able to respond appropriately to callers or guests. You must be able to control your emotion. You must be able to control your temperament. You must be a good listener. You must be able to listen well. When we say good listener, you must be able to follow whatever your callers or guests are saying. You must have sense of humor. This can be a valuable asset for a radio presenter as it can help to create a relaxed and engaging atmosphere on air. It has a way of connecting you with your audience, with your listeners. Professionalism, as much as you have humor, as much as you're cheerful, as much as you want to joke with your listeners and all of that, you must also be professional. You must display professionalism in all aspects of your job. It must include your behavior, language, the way you express yourself. You must always remember the ethics of that profession. And while you do that, you must be creative. As you present your content, you must be creative and innovative. Come up with fresh and engaging ideas for your program. Sometimes you can decide to change the way you used to come into the show, the way you start your show, the way you introduce your show. You can try to divert. You can try to be creative. Just look for something that aligns with the objective of your show, and it will be regarded as creativity. Empathy. You must have empathy towards your listeners. You must understand their concerns. You must understand their needs. This will give them some sense of belonging. Time management is key. A good radio presenter should be able to manage his or her time effectively, ensuring that they meet deadlines and stay organized. Take, for instance, in radio and TV, in broadcasting, time is of essence. If you have a 30-minute show, you're expected to spend 25 minutes or 26 minutes, at most 27 minutes. So you must be time conscious. All right. Of course, in TV, you may be given the signs that, oh, it's time for you to round off, and that can help you. But then you must be ready to keep to time. So we will move on to the last unit of this model, that is radio presentation techniques. I will be back. Stay tuned.